15 марта, утро, Puerto Montt называется место, куда мы только что приплыли и сели в автобус экскурсионный. Вот послушаем экскурсию.
Especially around Chiloé, but even further south. Well, can discuss about this industry, pros and cons, but it definitely changed a lot in this region because it generated a lot of employment for the gentlemen who work as a diver in the salmon farms, or then for all the people, all the related industries like the transport industry, the trucks that transport the salmon, ice cube industry, so they're the ones that repair the nets. I don't know.
Похоже, отель маленький.
Yeah, now that summertime has finished, we're going into autumn. Getting a bit cold around here, but in general we are famous for rain. Actually, in our region, in the south in general. Maybe you coming from further south, you noticed already. Yeah, we are in this area where we are right now. We can have up to 2 meters or 6 feet of rain, and closer to the mountains where we're traveling later, even double, 4 meters or 12 feet of rain. Lots of rain. That's why we have this beautiful rainforest that you're going to see on the second stop, where we have the opportunity to walk a little bit to get to the water rapids. Yeah, and yeah, so back to Puerto Montt again, our capital city. And in terms of history, relatively young, actually, well, as a city, it's young. However, there were already people living in this area before. Actually, where you stepped off the tender, yeah, in the harbor, in front of it is a little island called Tinglo, and that's where they have found the remains or leftovers of, you could say, the garbage disposal, shells, a lot of shells, old shells. I think you call it midden or something, a technical term, I think so. But it's like what the indigenous people collected. And there was one place where they gathered all the shells. So this dates back several thousand years. And actually we have one place about 16 kilometers from Puerto Montt, which is proof that it dates back like 14,000 years. So there were definitely people already before the Germans came, yeah, and the Spanish. So yeah, and now we are going the top level of Puerto Montt, which also used to be called Meli Puy. Meli in indigenous language means four, and Puy means hill. Yeah. So again, this area had this name before it was called Puerto Montt, Meli Puy. Now we're reaching, so to say, the upper level and getting on the highway to travel comfortably. To first Puerto Varas, but we just crossed Puerto Varas to drive to the east, get to the mountains. You can see at this time it's already busy. Actually went back to school, well, 2 weeks ago already. Which day is today? Friday, right? Yeah, 2 weeks ago we started school again in Chile. Schools and universities, and so this means there's again a bit more traffic in the mornings. And obviously Puerto Montt, because of the salmon industry and other activities, it's a center, so many important topic for this area, for this region, which makes it also a bit different from other areas in Chile. You should see it reflected in things like the architecture. Yeah? Then also, well, nowadays we don't have phone books anymore. In the past, if you had opened the phone book, you would have found a lot of names, German names, last names. And you have obviously some German clubs here still. You will find German schools. So you have certain, leftovers from this colonization. And all this happened in the 19th century. 1852 was this nobody else would take it, because remember, Chile declared independence in 1810 from Spain. Then there was the Independence War, and then in this whole century, in the 19th century, Chile took several measures to assure their territory. This was when 1843, for example, they sent the Goleta Ancud, a ship from Chiloé, from Ancud, down south to found Fort Bulnes and take the Magellan Strait officially for Chile, one day before a French ship arrived there. Yeah? So, one of the measures was also to invite settlers to come to this area, where obviously some people were living, but it wasn't really, very populated. So they invited German settlers. Why German settlers? Well, it seems they tried to invite Irish settlers, because the first governor, Higgins, was Irish descendant. So this idea was there as well, but probably they preferred California, where it was warmer. So in the end they sent two people, Bernardo Filippi and Vicente Pérez Rosales, to Germany to kind of promote moving to Chile, inviting German people to settle here, and they gave them some incentives. A piece of land, animals, materials, to come here and settle here in this area, which nowadays when we drive through, you will see it's very nicely cultivated and everything. But back then, obviously, it looked different. It looked like, the rainforest that you're going to see later. Almost like a jungle, very dense vegetation. So they had to work quite a bit to clear the land, to prepare it for doing agricultural activities, and they got some incentives from the government to do that. Those with a few branches, few arms, so to say. This is a tree which is originally from the 8th region, so further north, an area where all the Mapuche, the center of the Mapuche area, where the Mapuche Indians live. Especially when you cross from Chile to Argentina and you cross the mountains, you have forests of those trees, very beautiful. And but they're relatively flexible, so they live in other parts as well. Maybe you've seen them in your country as well. Yesterday we were talking about that. You find them in botanical gardens or whatever, normal gardens. They are in Spanish they're called Araucaria, and the indigenous people call them Pehuen, and the English name is monkey puzzle tree. So it's this tree, you saw, it doesn't have normal leaves nor needles, it has like little plates, the Araucaria. And the interesting thing about this tree is that it produces a seed, which is called piñón. It has a shape almost like a finger, and the narrow part of the piñón, several piñones, several seeds, they form a ball. You can imagine the narrow part, they all look to the center and they form a ball out of seeds, which then in April falls apart to spread. And it was very important for the Mapuche Indians as part of their diet, because you can boil that or roast it, and when you boil it, it has a taste like a chestnut, almost, very nutritious. Or what the Mapuche Indians did, they made a flour out of it. They roasted it and they made a flour. In Spanish? No, we call it piñones in Spanish. Piñones. I'm not sure if you would sell it in other places. And normally what happens when you have the tree in other places, often people have just one tree. And if you have one tree, you won't never get seeds, because those trees, they have male and female separated. So in order to produce the seeds, you need both. And here we're driving through this residential area that I mentioned, where you get a nice overview of the evolution of the architecture in this area. Obviously, originally all houses were built out of wood, because that's the material that's available. And people had the means, they would build houses with shingles, long shingles in this time, 1 meter long, make sure they overlap well. Then later they made them shorter. Later also they were produced industrially, but the first shingles were made by hand. And you can see some nice examples every now and then. They look almost like crochet, like very, very detailed shingles. On the right you have an old house, for example, with shingles, with wooden shingles. On the left-hand side, in the corner, coming up an old house also, which should be alerce, because the alerce tree, again, when You don't really need to paint it to protect it, yeah? It's very resistant again against water and humidity, and it becomes this brownish gray color, yeah? So after, in the beginning they used wood. After that, people started using the corrugated metal, basically because it's cheaper, easier to maintain, a bit better in terms of fire resistance. And let's say 15 years ago or something, people started using the siding, the fiber cement planks that look a little bit like wood, but they are not. Yeah? They have this pattern that makes them look like wood, but when you knock on them, it's fiber cement. So this is something you can observe a little bit, this evolution or the using of different materials. Nowadays people often mix. You put shingles in the front to impress the neighbor, make the house look nice, and on the side or the back side you put the metal, yeah? For cost reasons, for making it a bit more resistant to fire. On the right hand side you have this material on the spool. You see, this is what I meant by siding. Yeah? But again, the traditional way to build houses was and is with shingles. Now, the typical way to build a house, especially on the countryside, but also in the cities, often is you walk in and you're straight in the kitchen. The kitchen is a very important place where people meet. Often it's more used than the living room, and in many houses it's the only warm place, because here in this part of the south people still use mainly firewood to heat the house. You heat the house and to cook. Yeah? The wood burning stove. Let me quickly jump to something else. On your left hand side you will see, you see a hotel now, but it's important this spot because here used to be the old German school. Remember when the settlers came, they implemented a lot of institutions they were used to, like churches, fire brigades, and German schools. So this used to be here, but a few years ago they built a new one that we're going to see later. Yeah? But they sold this land that they had for the hotel, which was obviously very happy to get this beautiful spot with a view onto the lake. Because now you can see on the left side the lake, Yankiwe Lake. Which is the second biggest lake in Chile. And also one of those lakes that were formed by the glacier, so it's relatively deep, at least 300 meters in some parts, 1,000 feet. It's fresh water, yeah? And it's relatively fresh as well. But nevertheless, in summertime, the brave ones go swimming anyway. So here to your left, you will see like the swimming or beach bathing area. Yeah. And something else you can notice, look now, before we leave Puerto Varas, on your right hand side, right after the traffic light, when you have a look to the right, you will see a little church, and this is actually a Lutheran church. Right after, where this traffic light is standing, to the right, up, you have this little yellow church. It's a Lutheran church. This is also, you find in this area of Chile, you find Lutheran churches because of the immigration or the colonization of Germans in the 19th century, because Chile overall is a Catholic country, and it seems they would have preferred German Catholics, but in the end they received a lot of German Protestants, because especially Protestants decided in this time to leave Germany because of all the political problems. Remember, they tried to abolish monarchy in this time in Germany, and so many people looked for a new opportunity, a new start, and there were mainly, not only, but mainly Protestants coming here. There's like one little colony next to Frutillar of Catholic, it was colonized by Catholic people from volcanoes. Oh, that's very nice. This is fine. You find a lot of hotels, restaurants, cabins to rent, a lot of things related with tourism you find in Puerto Varas, especially here along the waterfront. Puerto Varas is much smaller than Puerto Montt, only 40,000 inhabitants. And again, very popular for people to settle down here, and also many people live here and work in Puerto Montt.
Прекрасное, огромное озеро. Ну, наступила осень, поэтому такое серое все. Хотя здесь есть пляжи. Летом здесь можно хорошо отдохнуть. Не хуже, чем на море.
And in this case, Yankee Hue means the place, the sunken place. Because every time you see a word which ends in H-U-E, Hue, it means the place of. Yeah? So Yankee Hue is the sunken place. Like Pomiyawe would be the place of gold, Cocotue is the place of cats, Petroe, where we're going, is the place of Petro, which is a type of fog. So again, this is one of the heritages of the indigenous population in this area. Many names, also food, for example, milk cow, or whenever you have a word that ends with AO, it means like accumulation of something, a lot of something. So Achao is the place where a lot of sand, or milk cow is when you make certain things out of potatoes. So Ao is something, an amount of something. Yeah, now we are about to leave Puerto Varas to travel along the lake shore and through the countryside. But before that, you can have a little glance onto the new German college, which is again one of the traces here of the German colonization. If you have a close look, you will notice the colors of the German flag and the Chilean flags they used in those buildings. Building is coming up on your right hand side after the shopping area. Yeah. So on your right hand side, the big building which has the black, red, gold from the German flag and the blue, red, white from the Chilean flag. Nowadays those schools are normally private schools. Not sure if you heard about in Chile we have a system where you have public schools, you have completely private schools, and you have private schools that are subsidized, where parents and the state pay half. Here on the right hand side is now the school. In this case, it's a school that covers everything from kindergarten, Playkind and Kinder as we call it, 4 to 6, and then it's basic school. Our basic school are 8 years, from 6 to 14. And then the Enseñanza Media is our like high school, the last 4 years from 14 till 18. So all that can be done here in this college. Again, in this case it's a private school. Private means I think they pay, at the moment they have a tuition of $400 a month. So definitely private. There used to be a link between the German government and the German schools for a long time. It means there was an interchange of teachers, obviously, of materials and everything. But with the reunification of Germany in 1989, many of those funds were used for other purposes and probably other reasons as well. And so nowadays, again, the German schools they are called German schools because of history, of tradition. They are founded by the German settlers, and they still obviously have a certain link classes are taught in Spanish. Yeah, those schools, they normally have 6 hours of German, like other schools teach 6 hours of English. They will teach 6 hours of German, and this explains a little bit why you don't find that many people speaking German nowadays. Yeah, if you don't have the opportunity to learn it and speak it in your family, it's difficult. Or again, same thing with English. If you have a talent for languages, you will learn it with 6 hours a week. But yeah, there's definitely nowadays, it's less common when you walk on the street here in this area that you find people speaking German. Yeah, it used to be very common until 40, 50 years ago. There used to be also services in German in the churches, but nowadays you find always less people speaking it. Also because there's more focus on English. It's now I would say a bit more than 10 years. I think it's obligatory for the schools to teach English from, that would be 5th grade. Yeah, many schools start earlier even. Many kindergartens already teach English, but so. And then German is a bit complicated also. Well, having said that, English also in a sense that you have the pronunciation is very different for somebody speaking Spanish, because you know, Spanish you speak as you write it. In English you have to know how to pronounce the EA. Sometimes it's C, sometimes it's where. Anyway. Some minutes through this area here. This is the land that was given to the settlers when they came. They would give, or they would receive 74 hectares, that is like 150 acres per person or per family. If they were sons, they would get another 34 hectares or 70 acres additional. So they got really big pieces of land in this time, and building material, an oxen team or animals to work, and also the possibility to achieve the Chilean nationality. And yeah, so this is the area that most of the settlers settled down and started working the land. That's why you see here still quite a bit of agricultural activities. Not as much as in the past. I mean, it has been changing, especially the last 15 years, I would say. You've seen that a lot of people split the land and sold smaller pieces of land for people building their private house, or sometimes also hotels or restaurants or whatever. But so definitely there has been a change, a transition from agricultural usage towards more normal private or residential usage. Yeah, but nevertheless you still see people here like planting corn, which is not very common here in this area, but still cattle farming to produce milk, cheese, yogurt, all this kind of stuff. And what you can observe is a slow change from, well, the highway where we were, a very intervened area, cleared land, industrialized area. Now you have this mixture of cleared areas, farming areas, but already you see the first native trees and plants. And the closer you get to the mountains, you will see more and more native vegetation, more representatives of the Valdivian rainforest that we have here, which are rather low-growing trees, evergreen trees that don't lose their leaves. Yeah? One tree, for example, you can observe already pine trees that were introduced. Sometimes certain kinds of flowers, raspberries, berries. So those were introduced. Alamos, all those slim trees that were used to make an elm.
активный вулкан. Один из 60, которые наблюдают, за которыми наблюдают, и около 2000, которые существуют на территории Чили. Вот мы видим подножья, склоны горы, и это вулкан Осорно.
Run into from the Onsen Lake to this lake, to the Yankiwa Lake, and nowadays it runs to the bay where your ship is anchored. Yeah? But we're talking about thousands of years, nothing that happened from one day to another, like over years and years, millions of years. This landscape has been shaped by glaciers, by the volcanic activity.
Чуть раньше на дороге стоял знак «Aquí comienza la aventura». Здесь начинается приключение. Это такая туристическая место, где можно взять каяк, можно сесть на лошадь, можно подниматься в горы. Здесь же живут ученые, которые наблюдают за вулканом. Называется это Ensenada. И открыто весь год, как написано.
There was a dog thinking about crossing the road, but fortunately he changed his mind. You see, Ensenada is like a street village, you could say. It has grown, it was built along the road. Again, lots of activities related with tourism, and in our peak season, which is January, February, that's when the national tourists normally travel, especially in February. That's like the main season. Many people come to this area because you can do a lot of things. And again, it's different to other parts of Chile because of its architecture, its food. And maybe you've seen some of signs saying Kuchen, a German word for cake. Kuchen. This is actually used in the whole of Chile nowadays. Kuchen stands for a cake that is made with fruit and cream, or custard, you would say, maybe. Yeah, it's a Kuchen. When it's a dry cake, so to say, we call it cake. But always when you have fruit and cream involved, it's Kuchen. So it's a German word that's used. And you've seen maybe signs along the road. Yeah, and now we're getting closer and closer to the entrance of the national park. You notice more dense vegetation. The rainforest already starts here a little bit. This is the rest of the forest. And now on your left you see again the Osorno. Got closer and closer to the Osorno, with a little bit of snow still the upper parts. If you wonder, in our winter time when it's snowing, we don't have snow where we are right now. Yeah, the snow doesn't come down here at this level. Maybe one day a little bit, but it's melting away immediately. The snow is only in the higher areas. Yeah, down here it's normally rain.
Снег в этой части Чили бывает только на горах, вот там на вершинах высоких. закрывают. Здесь большие потоки воды. От снега, который на горах тает. Мы вернулись в автобус после чудесной прогулки по озеру, которое вообще-то официально называется озеро всех святых, но по цвету воды оно называется Лаго Эсмеральда, изумрудное озеро. Там действительно чудесная вода, и вокруг горы и лес. Вот такой лес. Они называют это джунгли. Rainforest. Вот горы, закрытые туманом. Вершины гор. Ну и несколько из них вулканы при этом. Это все есть у Джонатана на видео. А я просто вот решила такую красоту вблизи сделать.
Fog, the rain on the trees and everything. So yeah, this was our All Saints Lake boat ride, and you saw there were the people waiting already for the crossing to cross over to the other side to Argentina. Let's see. I just need to see if I can take the curve here, but some patience. Yeah, and here in this place, as you've heard, also my colleagues had it on the boat, there is private property. That's why, for example, you have this area here where we are. This is a hotel, the Petway Hotel, which is a private property, and along the lake shore you've seen maybe some of the houses. As there was a question, some of them are summer residentials, but others are houses where people live constantly. Yeah? Actually, this area has a very special climate, a microclimate. In some areas they even grow cherries. Yeah, so it's very. On the one hand, it's rainy, obviously, a lot of rain and cold, but then also in some areas, like when you go to the end of the lake in this area, it's called Peunia, where they do a lot of agriculture. Yeah. That's the tricky thing when the buses park all in line in the context of the glaciation. And where we're going to go now, to the water rapids, the paved way. We just drive back those 6 kilometers, so it's maybe 5-10 minutes. Could almost walk here. So the water rapids are basically the volcano. They come from a volcano eruption. It's the rock, the volcanic rock, that derivated the water on the one hand, and on the other side the river over hundreds and thousands of years formed channels through this rock to the basalt rock. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry,
I
that-
say sorry. well, it's not really small. The road is a bit rough here. Real main entrance, yeah. And after that, for experience, normally, everybody has a different walking speed. Oh, it's making interference, right? Okay, I thought it made a bit interference because of the volume, but okay. See? Very bien. Yes.
Тут есть реки, которые впадают в это озеро. Вот, сейчас увидим пороги.
Yeah, we'll just make another brief little stop on our way to the national park. Because there is a place that we call Ventana, which means window, and it's a place where you can see a little bit of the volcano on your right hand side. So it has a shape like a window.
Даже вода, текущая в это озеро, она тоже такого изумрудного цвета.
Let's see.
Это зависит от этих
Lucky.
вулканических пород,
Give it a try,
которые
at least.
сформировали
No, there's all clouds now.
дно озера
I assure you,
и,
there's the volcano somewhere behind.
и дно
Yeah.
этого ручья, реки. Там наверху, там
Almost
как раз этот
So,
самый вулкан.
So we will stop in a few minutes, then walk together to the main entrance. Right after the main entrance, you have restroom facilities on the right-hand side. But then to get to the viewpoints, there's two viewpoints next to the river. To get there, you have to walk from where we are going to stop. You have to walk always turning to the left, yeah. And it's the same way back. Because why do I say that? There's other trails, other little trails, but they are too long to do them now. There's one where I will be standing there, and if somebody's really fast with the first viewpoint, you might want to sneak in a little bit into the other trail, but we can't do it completely. We don't have the time for that. But the important thing is you have enough time to get to the viewpoints next to the water rapids. And the thing is, from the ticket office, always turn left to get there, and same way back. There's also a cafe on the way. As I said, after the ticket box are the restrooms. And on the way, if you're interested in trees, you will see in some trees they put the names, the scientific and the local names. So for example, you will see one tree they put a tepu. Tepu is a typical tree of the Maldivian rainforest. Actually, it's a tree that normally doesn't grow straight up, but it grows rather twisted. And when you go to more remote areas, you will find you sometimes walk and you think you're walking on the ground, but in reality, it's the real ground is like several meters below you, because there's this tree growing twistedly, and then other trees falling on it. So that's a tepu. It has tiny little leaves, very small little leaves. For example, one of the trees that people love to use as firewood because it has a very high caloric value. It can even crack your the iron plate of your oven. Yeah? It's so strong if you just put tepu. So normally you mix it with others. The thing is, it needs at least, ideally, 2 years to dry, more or less. Normally, almost nobody takes the time to do that. So, and the thing is, those trees are not replanted because they're growing so slowly. So it's tricky. They're good firewood, but it's not really good using them. So tepu. Then you also will see the murta, this berry that's endemic in this area. It's more, that's before we get to the ticket box. On the right hand side there's a bush of murtas. You see the luma, you see ulmo, all those typical trees here from this area with a sign where you also find the scientific name.
Идем, если вместе видео делаем, одновременно. Если
Ну.
это будет, вот я подумаю, сделаем стиль.
Ага.
Виды красивые. Здесь.
Это заповедник. Здесь растения эндемики. Вот, например, вот это. Так называется вот это растение. Эндемик.
Nghe thấy ghét không anh Quang? Người ta chụp giùm cho mà nghe là thấy ghét rồi.
А вот это растение такое интересное. Типу, она сказала, тепуалия стипуларис. Оно...
Растение это дерево, куст.
Это вот это дерево. Нет, вот это дерево. Это вот это самое вот с маленькими листиками. Оно очень долго растет, но оно дает очень много тепла.
А, вот это вот малюсенькое такое.
Ну, вот это вот. Его раньше вырубали безжалостно, потому что оно дает тепло. И теперь оно вот в заповеднике.
Повезло дереву.
Ну да.
Не давало бы тепла, не было бы заповедника.
Я подальше от тебя уйду, пожалуйста.